When a narcissist becomes addicted to intimacy with you, it doesn't come from love or connection. It comes from obsession and control. They see closeness not as a way to bond, but as a way to feed their ego. To them, being with you is proof that they still own you, that you're still under their influence. What feels like passion at first slowly reveals itself as another way for them to dominate. At the beginning, the intensity can feel overwhelming. They shower you with attention, making you believe you're the most desired person in the world. You might confuse this intensity with love, but it's really an addiction. The narcissist isn't addicted to you as a person. They're addicted to the way you make them feel powerful. This explains why their desire often feels more like possession than genuine affection. Their addiction leads them to blur boundaries. They may expect you to be available at all times, as if your body belongs to them. They don't respect your needs, your mood, or your comfort. Instead, they treat intimacy as their right. This sense of entitlement is dangerous because it erases your autonomy. What should be a choice becomes an obligation, leaving you drained instead of fulfilled. When the narcissist is addicted, intimacy becomes transactional. They use it to reward, punish, or manipulate. If you comply with their demands, they shower you with attention. If you resist, they may withdraw or lash out. It's no longer about sharing affection, it's about control. You begin to realize that their desire isn't rooted in love, but in domination. Every moment together becomes another round in their game of power. Their addiction also makes them obsessive. They monitor your actions, question your loyalty, and accuse you of withholding. This paranoia is a reflection of their own insecurity. They can't imagine you having independence, because to them, your role is to feed their ego. Their obsession turns intimacy into surveillance, making you feel watched instead of wanted. Over time, you stop feeling safe because their addiction feels more like imprisonment. They may also use their addiction as proof of love. They'll say things like, "See how much I want you. That means I love you." But in reality, it's not about love, it's about neediness and control. True love respects boundaries. Addiction ignores them. By framing their obsession as affection, they confuse you into accepting behavior that isn't healthy. You start to mistake intensity for devotion, when it's really manipulation. This addiction often comes with cycles. At times they're overwhelming with passion. Other times they turn cold and distant, leaving you confused. The highs feel intoxicating, and the lows feel crushing. This emotional roller coaster is intentional. It keeps you hooked, always chasing the highs. You don't realize it, but you've become part of their addiction cycle, rewarded with passion, then starved of it, until you're completely dependent on their approval. Narcissists addicted to intimacy often brag about it. They want others to envy their passionate relationship. Behind closed doors, though, it's a very different story. What feels suffocating and manipulative to you is paraded as proof of their desirability to others. This public performance is about image, not reality. Their addiction isn't just private, it becomes a stage show meant to reinforce their ego in the eyes of others. Their addiction makes them dismissive of your needs. Your comfort, your boundaries, your emotions, none of it matters. They focus only on their hunger. If you express discomfort, they twist it into rejection. They make you feel guilty for not meeting their demands as if you're the one failing. This manipulation ensures they remain in control. Your voice gets smaller while their obsession gets louder. Eventually, you may feel erased within the relationship. Over time, their addiction reveals its true cost. What started as intensity becomes suffocation. What seemed like passion becomes control. And what felt like love becomes dependency. The narcissist's addiction doesn't just consume you, it consumes them too, because no matter how much they take, it's never enough. Their hunger grows, while your energy fades. The relationship turns into a cycle of taking and draining, leaving you exhausted and unfulfilled. One of the clearest signs of their addiction is how they resist rejection. A healthy partner can respect no. A narcissist addicted to you sees no as a challenge. They may sulk, guilt trip, or even become angry. They don't hear your boundaries, they hear defiance. And to them, defiance must be crushed. This makes their addiction dangerous because it replaces respect with entitlement, eroding the trust and safety you deserve. Their obsession also leads them to test your loyalty constantly. They may push you into uncomfortable situations to prove your devotion. If you resist, they accuse you of not caring. If you comply, they gain more power. This twisted dynamic ensures they win either way. For you, it becomes a cycle of losing yourself, inch by inch. Their addiction isn't about intimacy, it's about testing how far you'll bend to their will. Another dangerous aspect is how they use their addiction to trap you emotionally. They may overwhelm you with passion in order to bond you closer, making it difficult for you to leave. This bond is confusing because it feels intense, yet unhealthy. Survivors often describe it as being both drawn in and drained at the same time. The narcissist knows this confusion keeps you hooked. Their addiction is really a cage disguised as devotion. They may also use their obsession as a way to avoid accountability. After hurting you, instead of apologizing, they try to erase the conflict with closeness. They act as if affection cancels out wrongdoing. But it doesn't heal. It hides. By redirecting the focus, they prevent you from addressing real issues. This tactic ensures the cycle continues. Their addiction isn't just physical, it's a smokescreen for avoiding the truth. Over time, their addiction becomes suffocating. What once felt flattering now feels exhausting. You begin to notice the imbalance. They take but rarely give. They expect but rarely respect. Their obsession drains the joy out of intimacy, turning it into duty. This is the cruel paradox of narcissistic addiction. It feels like you're giving everything, but it's never enough. Their hunger is bottomless, leaving you emptier every time. In public, they may brag about the chemistry you share, using you as a trophy to boost their image. To friends, they play the role of a passionate lover. But behind closed doors, their behavior tells a different story. Their bragging isn't about you, it's about them. You're not a partner, you're evidence of their desirability. Their addiction is performative, designed to show off rather than build real connection. They also become territorial. Narcissists addicted to intimacy with you often display jealousy, even paranoia. They act as though they own you, questioning your every move. This isn't love, it's possession. Their jealousy reveals their fear of losing control. The more addicted they are, the more paranoid they become. Instead of building trust, they tighten their grip, creating an environment of fear and surveillance instead of affection. Their addiction leads them to confuse intensity with love. They equate passion with depth, but they're not the same. True love is steady, nurturing, and safe. Narcissistic obsession is chaotic, dramatic, and consuming. The constant highs and lows trick your brain into thinking the bond is special. But in reality, it's manufactured intensity. Once you step away, you realize their love was nothing more than turbulence. This addiction also causes them to manipulate your emotions. If you resist, they accuse you of being cold. If you comply, they act like you owe them. They use guilt, shame, and obligation to keep you in line. Over time, you start to lose touch with your own desires. You stop asking what you want, because their needs overshadow everything. This erasure of self is the true cost of their addiction. Narcissists addicted to you may also triangulate intimacy. They hint at others, an ex, a friend, even a stranger, to provoke jealousy. They want you to feel competitive, like you must fight to keep their attention. This tactic creates insecurity, making you cling harder to them. It's cruel, because intimacy should make you feel secure, not anxious. But for them, insecurity is power. The more jealous you feel, the more control they gain. Their obsession with you can lead to cycles of overindulgence and withdrawal. They may demand constant closeness for days, then suddenly go cold. This unpredictability keeps you off balance. You never know which version of them you'll get. This emotional roller coaster isn't accidental. It's designed to keep you hooked. The inconsistency leaves you anxious and dependent, always chasing the next high, while they feed on your confusion. When they sense you pulling away, their addiction intensifies. They suddenly flood you with passion, compliments, and promises. It feels like they're proving their love, but it's actually panic. They can't tolerate losing control. Their sudden surge of affection isn't real change, it's bait. Once you're drawn back in, the cycle continues. Their obsession isn't about cherishing you, it's about preserving their dominance. Their addiction often blinds them to your needs. They become so consumed by their hunger for control that they don't notice your exhaustion. You could be drained, unhappy, or even ill, but they push anyway. To them, your discomfort is irrelevant. Their satisfaction is the priority. This selfishness erodes trust, turning intimacy into a battlefield. Instead of mutual connection, it becomes a one-sided demand that leaves you feeling depleted. Over time, this addiction creates deep resentment in you. You start to dread moments that should have brought closeness. Instead of feeling loved, you feel used. Instead of safety, you feel pressure. The resentment grows quietly until you realize that what you're experiencing isn't intimacy at all. It's manipulation. That realization is painful, but it's also the first step toward reclaiming your freedom. One of the most damaging effects of their addiction is how it rewires your perception of love. You may begin to associate passion with pain, thinking chaos is normal in relationships. This conditioning makes it hard to recognize healthy love when it comes. The narcissist trains you to expect turbulence, making peace feel strange. But once you heal, you learn that real love is calm, steady, and respectful, not addictive, chaotic, or draining. Their addiction also creates dependency. They may insist that you're the only one who understands or satisfies them. This makes you feel special at first, but over time, it feels suffocating. Their need isn't flattering, it's pressure. They've built a trap disguised as devotion. You begin to feel like leaving is impossible because they've made you believe you're their lifeline. But the truth is, their survival never depended on you. It depended on control. Narcissists addicted to intimacy with you may also use it as a distraction from their emptiness. Instead of facing their inner wounds, they bury themselves in physical obsession. The problem is, no amount of closeness can fill that void. It's a bottomless pit, and you're the one being drained trying to fill it. Their addiction is proof that they're avoiding self-reflection. Instead of healing, they consume, and they consume endlessly. As their obsession deepens, they may grow reckless. Their demands become more frequent, their jealousy more intense, their control more suffocating. This recklessness exposes their true weakness, fear of abandonment. The more addicted they are, the more obvious it becomes that they're terrified of losing you. Their bravado crumbles, and beneath it, you see the truth. They're not powerful, they're dependent. And dependence isn't love, it's fear. The longer you stay, the more their addiction drains your energy, confidence, and sense of self. You begin to feel like an object, valued only for what you provide. Your individuality fades, your boundaries dissolve, and your happiness slips away. This is the real danger of their obsession. It erodes you slowly, piece by piece, until one day you realize you've been giving everything while receiving nothing in return. Recognizing their addiction for what it is can be liberating. Once you see that it's not love, not passion, but control, you begin to detach. You stop confusing intensity with devotion. You stop mistaking possession for affection. And in that clarity, you reclaim your power. Their addiction doesn't have to trap you forever. By naming it, you break its spell. And by breaking it, you set yourself free. When the narcissist senses you're no longer interested in feeding their obsession, panic sets in. They may double down, showering you with passion and promises. But it's not about love. It's about fear of losing control. Their desperation grows louder while your silence grows stronger. This shift reveals the truth. Their addiction was never about cherishing you. It was always about chaining you and those chains begin to break once you step back. Their addiction can also spark rage. When they realize their hold is slipping, they lash out. They accuse you of being cold, unfaithful, or selfish. This anger isn't about truth. It's about losing dominance. For the narcissist, rejection feels like humiliation. Their rage is proof of how dependent they truly were. The more they scream, the clearer it becomes that their obsession was never power. It was weakness disguised as passion. Sometimes, they try to weaponize intimacy as proof of reconciliation. They'll insist that closeness means the relationship is healed, even when deep wounds remain. This is gaslighting at its most dangerous because it rewrites reality, but true healing requires honesty, apology, and change, none of which they provide. Their addiction convinces them that passion alone can erase the damage, but in reality, it only deepens the cracks. The more addicted they are, the less they respect boundaries. They may pressure you, guilt trip you, or twist your words to force compliance. This erosion of boundaries is intentional. It makes them feel more powerful. But for you, it creates exhaustion and resentment. You start to realize that love without respect is not love at all. Their addiction exposes itself in every push, every demand, every refusal to hear the word no. Over time, their obsession isolates you. They want you available for them, and them alone. Friends, hobbies, even self-care get pushed aside. The narcissist thrives when your world revolves around them. Their addiction to you makes them jealous of anything that takes your attention. Slowly, you shrink your world to keep peace, until one day you realize you've lost yourself. This isolation is their victory, but also their greatest mistake. The addiction also drains them. They chase you relentlessly, trying to fill a void that never closes. No matter how much they take, it's never enough. Their hunger grows, but their satisfaction shrinks. This endless craving becomes their torment. And while they project power, the truth is clear: they're enslaved by their own emptiness. Their addiction isn't strength, it's weakness on display, a weakness that no partner can ever cure. Their obsession often makes them paranoid. They fear you'll leave, cheat, or replace them. Ironically, it's their behavior that pushes you away. The paranoia becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. They grip tighter, demand more, lash out harder, and in doing so, they drive you further. What they feared most, losing you, becomes the inevitable outcome of their addiction. This cycle proves their control was always an illusion. Narcissists addicted to you often try to convince you that no one else could love you the way they do. They frame their obsession as proof of devotion. But obsession isn't love, it's control. This lie is powerful because it plays on insecurity. But once you see through it, you realize the truth. Real love doesn't suffocate. Real love celebrates freedom. Their addiction isn't a blessing, it's a burden designed to keep you trapped. When you finally break away, their addiction may escalate. They might beg, plead, or even stalk, unable to accept the loss. But no matter how intense their desperation, it's still not love, it's panic. The separation exposes the truth. They weren't addicted to you. They were addicted to control. Without it, they unravel. Their obsession, once masked as passion, now looks like the weakness it always was. For many survivors, the aftermath of this addiction is confusion. You may wonder if what you experienced was love, lust, or manipulation. The truth is, it was a mix of obsession, control, and dependency. Naming it for what it was helps you heal. By understanding that their addiction was never about your worth, you reclaim your identity. You realize you were never the problem. You were simply trapped in their cycle of hunger. Healing means redefining intimacy. You begin to separate passion from possession, intensity from love. You relearn that closeness should feel safe, mutual and respectful, not addictive, controlling, or suffocating. This process takes time, but it restores your sense of self. You learn that love should never feel like a cage. True intimacy is about freedom, not fear, and that truth becomes your compass moving forward. The narcissist's addiction leaves scars, but it also leaves lessons. You learn to spot the difference between genuine love and manipulation. You learn to honor your boundaries, to listen to your instincts, to walk away when something feels wrong. These lessons are painful, but they make you stronger. In surviving their addiction, you build resilience. You discover that your greatest power was never in feeding their hunger. It was in reclaiming your freedom. When you look back, the intensity may confuse you. You may remember the highs and wonder if they meant something real. But intensity is not the same as intimacy. The highs were manufactured to keep you hooked, not to build love. Once you see this, the confusion clears. You stop longing for the illusion and start seeking the real thing. Their addiction loses its hold once you recognize it as a trick, not a treasure. The greatest threat to their addiction is your indifference. When you no longer react, when you no longer chase, cry, or bend, their obsession loses power. Narcissists thrive on response. Without it, they wither. Your calm silence becomes their undoing. What once fed them now starves them, and that is how you break the cycle. Not with revenge, but with refusal. Refusal to play, refusal to return. Their addiction also reveals their fragility. They act powerful, but underneath they're terrified. Terrified of abandonment, of irrelevance, of emptiness. Their obsession with you is a mask to hide that fear. Once you see the fear behind the mask, their power crumbles. You realize they were never as strong as they pretended to be. Their addiction was proof of their weakness, and your freedom is proof of your strength. In time, you may realize their addiction had nothing to do with you personally. It was never about your uniqueness, your beauty, or your soul. It was about their endless void. You were simply the one who filled it for a while. This realization is painful, but also freeing, because once you know it wasn't about you, you stop blaming yourself. Their addiction was their problem, not your reflection. Survivors often describe leaving as the moment they finally breathed again. The suffocation of constant demands lifts, and space for self-love returns. At first it feels strange, even empty, because you were conditioned to equate chaos with love, but slowly you rediscover peace. That peace is the proof you made the right choice. Their addiction drained you, freedom restores you, and nothing compares to the quiet power of peace. Looking back, you see the pattern clearly. The flattery, the obsession, the control, the paranoia. It was all part of their addiction. What once confused you now makes sense. And in that understanding, the illusion shatters. You realize you weren't loved. You were consumed, but you survived. And survival means transformation. You're no longer the same person who fell for their tricks. You're wiser, stronger, and unshakable. The narcissist's addiction ends in defeat, not for you, but for them. They remain trapped in their cycles, chasing, consuming, never satisfied. You move on, but they stay stuck. Their addiction becomes their prison, while your clarity becomes your freedom. The roles reverse, you rise, they fall, and that contrast is the final proof that their obsession was never power. It was always weakness. In the end, when a narcissist is addicted to intimacy with you, it's not love, it's control. It's not passion, it's possession. It drains, it confuses, it suffocates. But once you see it for what it is, the spell is broken. You reclaim your body, your mind, and your heart. Their addiction no longer defines you. What defines you now is your freedom, your strength, and your ability to choose real love, the kind that heals instead of harms.